Our Live 5 interview with Melissa Sweet, author illustrator of Balloons Over Broadway, this year's Cybert Award winner, and cover of the next issue of the Horn Book magazine, which will be available here at the booth tomorrow. Melissa, I have 5 questions.
Okay.
That's the time. 5 questions.
I can do it.
What is your favorite holiday?
Oh my gosh, my favorite holiday. Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day, yeah. It's because in May we know spring is coming.
Is it, and does it really work?
No, but we believe it will work.
Is that your next book, The Little Groundhog Who Could?
Yeah.
And how do you feel about Thanksgiving?
I love Thanksgiving. And I love the parade. It's not my favorite food holiday, but I do love it, yeah. I was at the parade a number of years ago to see the balloons blown up, and that was definitely the highlight of the parade for me, yeah, the night before.
Have you ever invented anything?
Yes, I invented a donut delivery route. Closer? And it was in response to my brother having a newspaper route and making a bucket of money. So I decided that I would go around to all my neighbors and collect their orders and their money. And on Sunday morning I went to the bakery, loaded up my bicycle, and delivered donuts for my 11th year. Yes.
How did you make out on this?
I made out pretty good, almost as good as babysitting, but still enough that it was worth it, totally worth it. It might have been $8 a trip.
That's a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot in the 1960s.
Price.
Yes, that's right, exactly.
In your book, there's this fabulous moment where Tony, the hero, has a paradigm shift when he realizes that puppets could be controlled from below. What he needed to do with those.
Exactly.
Puppets. What is your own personal favorite eureka moment?
Well, that was kind of a eureka moment when I went through all the steps of what he had to do to get from the parade floats that moved along and the stick-operated puppets to getting them up in the air. When I realized what he did, that was truly a eureka moment. And I think a eureka moment happens in every book when you discover what materials you're going to use and you have just the perfect materials. That, for me, I feel like I'm smooth sailing from there.
So I'm curious about that. When do you know that? Like, when you're working on a book project, when you're, for example, do you know what materials you're using at that point?
No, it's definitely after the dummy stage. The dummy just allows me to place the type and get a sense of the pacing of the book. And then when I start to play, I mean, it's really about playing with materials and pushing them around and deciding what materials are best to represent New York City, what materials represent Louisiana. So that time is really important for me because then it's going to dictate how the whole book looks. So it comes later, and sometimes it comes at the very end. In A River of Words, it came about a month before the book was due. So I'm scrambling at this point to create the artwork. But it was exactly what I needed. It was the materials really made me, move along. So yeah.
Chris Roshko was just here and said that if he could only use watercolor for the rest of his life, he'd be perfectly happy. Do you feel that way about a particular medium?
No, I don't. I don't think there's one material I would want to use. I really like combining them. Watercolor is definitely where my background is. So once you've mastered something like that material in particular, which is more difficult than it looks, then you have this great, toolbox. But I feel like every book I do calls for such different materials that it would be hard for me to go forward just using one thing. Yeah, I love paper, so.
In all of its forms.
Exactly.
I have one last question for you.
Okay.
What's wrong and what's right in the way we teach kids art?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. So the first thing that comes to mind is we approach art like there's first of all a preconceived end result, that it should look a certain way. And at a certain point, kids realize that kids are having fun making art, and then they're not. And usually it has to do with when they learn that what they're seeing and what they're drawing isn't the same. You know, they can't get it to look like how they want it to look. And the truth is, it takes practice. You never put a violin in a kid's hand and expect them to be able to come out with some great sound, or a baseball bat and expect them to, you know, hit a home run. It's just, but most kids, when they're interested in something, they'll practice enough to get good at it, like that. So I think we're just not using it enough. I think we're not looking at playing with them enough. I think if we did, and what I'm really loving about all the picture book biographies coming out, especially about all the artists, is we get a really good sense that these were kids that just made art. They just kept making it. So why not just keep making it? And self-taught artists just have this. It's a great example that you don't need a lot of schooling, and you just need to do it.
Yeah, but it's not instant.
It is not. It's so far from instant. I just so wish. When I go into schools, I show the kids my pictures I did as a kid, and they're like, "What? It's impossible." But just practice. Yeah.
I remember we were looking at a book once in the Hornbook office, which was illustrated in this sort of faux childlike way, with the house that was very straight, the sun with a smile and lines coming out.
Yeah.
And one of the persons on staff who had been a librarian said, kids wish they didn't draw this way. We'll celebrate it in children's books, but children are frustrated when their pictures look that way, because they're trying to make it look as real as they can.
Yeah, yeah. But those good old-fashioned drawing books, those books teaching you how to make comics, those are, I think, the key. Those good old-fashioned, drawing characters and crazy expressions, that's where I started. A lot of people start there. Yeah.
We're glad you did.
Thank you.
Glad you kept going and kept practicing.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your award, Melissa.
Thank you.
And thank you for the beautiful cover.
I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you.